Single most important thing that I can tell anybody about health is never miss a sunrise ever again. Sun, I call Tina. There is no alternative. Just like we say with Bitcoin, you can't get enough sun. Grounding is the simple, cheapest thing that all of us can do. Just so you guys know, water is the stage that life plays on. Cold increases magnetism through a Curie temperature. My goal is to make sure people who own the orange coin stay alive so we can put the criminals in jail. If you own Ethereum, I think you should go and you need that in the brain. Remember my day job, guys. I'm a brain surgeon, so I know a little bit about this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this panel is called Decentralize Your Health.
And I want you to tell us really like we're 5 years old, okay? Very simplified, because I want these guys to hear it and to be able to take something away with them today and go, even if I just change one thing, I've done something, okay? So we're gonna start with light, okay? We know, well, you go, light.
First one with light, single most important thing that I can tell anybody about health is never miss a sunrise ever again.
Yeah. So get up, see the sunrise, get those early morning rays in your
30
eyes.
minutes. Like in El Salvador, the sun rises right now 5:30. Me and Chantel get up 5:10. We get out to the beach, see the sun. We usually stay out there, depending on what day it is, about an hour and 15 minutes. I would tell you, like, if you have a serious disease, say like cancer, MS, you probably need to stay out there longer.
Yeah.
If you don't have any issues at all and say you're just trying to avoid, getting, fucked by the doctors and centralized medicine, then, you don't have to stay there too long. But it's something that everybody should do. And also, I would tell you, when you do it, no shoes. Don't be like those idiots that come to the beach wearing flip-flops. And the other thing you can do, this is also when you're walking around Prague and you're in the sun, you notice on the bottom of my shoes, every shoe I have is leather. So you want to do it grounded. You'll see I also don't wear socks. If you do wear socks, because you have sweaty feet, make sure you wear cotton socks. Then you won't have a problem. But light, as much sun that you can be out. I hate to say this to a bunch of people to piss you off, but I can't fucking believe how white some of you guys are. So you need to get out in the sun a little bit more. I live in the 13th North Latitude, so I'm always in the sun. Yesterday, before I came here, I spent an hour and a half on the beach, sat in the sun. Sun, I call Tina. There is no alternative. Just like we say with Bitcoin, you can't get enough sun.
Okay, brilliant. When you're in the sun, ideally, if you're not sort of walking around or anything, take your glasses off and your contact lenses. That's another story. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but just get the light in your eyes, right, directly. And then the other part of light would be, ideally, no lights after sunset, right?
Well, I would tell you, for like my clients, the people that are coming to me that are paying me big money, I'm like a Nazi with the light after the sunset. But for you guys, like you're just starting out, if you guys decide to go to the guy out here, the mitochondriac guy, and buy his red light and you want to use red lights, I'm fine with that, especially when you're a Bitcoiner just putting your toe in. If you own Ethereum, I think you should go in the LED lights and kill yourself. But my favorite light probably for Bitcoiners after that is Beeswax candle. The reason why you want to use beeswax, candles give you a nice mood, but also there's no volatile chemicals that come off because beeswax is normal. Yeah. So I would tell you guys, I would advocate spending some of your Bitcoin to buy something like that until you adapt into nighttime where you don't really need that much light. And it takes a while to do it. It's not the kind of hack that everybody falls into, but once you understand the reasons why you're doing it, or you're trying to stave off an illness, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And one simple thing you could do is at least minimize blue light after sunset. So turn your phones to red. I mean, just small, quick things you can do.
I have an iPhone. If you catch me later, if we're doing a little Q&A, I can show you. You triple click it, and it takes that blew away. If you think you're working on night shift with an Apple iPhone, that's fucking bullshit. Doesn't work. It'll still ruin your melatonin. If you get to be a bigger tool, you get a pair of these glasses. I think the mitochondriac guy that's got a booth here is selling them. Daniel's got his on. I asked to turn these lights off. Why? Because even though I probably don't like half of you, I'm trying to put some time back in your account. So we turned off the LED lights. Because my friend Philip, who was here last year, and he heard my talk, and the first thing he said to me, he goes, Jack, am I okay to turn the lights off? I said, turn them off. They don't like it, they can fucking leave.
Okay, great. Next one we're moving on to is water. There we go. So tell us what structured water, tell us basic kind of,
Well,
something they
you
can
told
take
me
away
you
today.
told me to keep this 3rd, 5th grade. So
Okay, yes.
for those who didn't come to my first talk, I gave you my first hack. It's sitting here right on the table. So for the people who have like mitochondrial diseases, that'd be like cancer, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, things like that, vitiligo, I'm going to tell you to drink a special kind of water that costs a lot of money. It's called deuterium depleted water. But this is the hack for most people who don't have the problem. Carbonated water, especially high latitudes. Since we're at Czech, I think it's what, 50, 52? You're at 50, 52? I don't know what you're at. You're probably the same. Yeah. But a high latitude water is good enough, but you want to make it carbonated. The reason why? Carbonation gives you another part of the stool, which is magnetism. So water is probably the most important thing when we don't have an issue with magnetism. Right now, on Earth, we have a planetary problem. So right now, magnetism is the one I'm spending a lot of time talking about.
That's the next one,
right.
Magnetism. You can go.
Well, no, but water, I want everybody to understand. Most fiat scientists that have Rockefeller and Rothschild medicine put into them, they believe in biochemistry. That is billiard balls on the table. Decentralized medicine, we are biophysics first. And it turns out water is the stage that life plays on. So in other words, when you learn about, like, for example, H2O, you think H2O is the symbol of water that your mitochondria makes. I got some bad news for some of you. That's not true. It's H320, okay? And the water there is H, it's not deuterium. We're designed to keep the heavy water in our blood. Okay, our blood has 150 parts per million. But what keeps it in your blood is actually a vortex that's created in your heart. For those of you who don't know, fish that are about 540 million years old, one-chamber hearts. They don't need to have a big vortex. Why? Because they live in a sea of electrons. Then amphibians came, 3-chamber heart. Bigger vortex, they went on land. We are the ones that have the 4-chamber, the mammals. We make the biggest vortex. For those of you who don't know about this, is there a developed science that when I first started doing this 25 years ago, nobody knew about. It's called heart rate variability. And it turns out the more healthy you are, the more complex your vortex is, the more chaotic it is. The less complex it is, the less healthy you are. So if you wanted to check out how good or bad you're doing, you could do a simple HRV test. That would tell you about the water content of your blood. For those of you out there who don't know this, your blood is made out of 93% water. So this would be a good way for you to know, hey, Jack, can I just use the CO2 water? Or do I need to step my game up because my dielectric constant in my body sucks, my HRV's bad, because I use too much Twitter, I'm watching too many Daniel Prince's, podcasts, I'm checking out the last peptide stack for BTC sessions and Robert Breedlove, whatever the fuck you're doing, okay? My goal is to make sure people who own the orange coin stay alive so we can put the fucking criminals in jail.
Okay. Next one, magnetism, which you kind of sort of started covering. We could put grounding into that, couldn't we?
Yes.
So,
grounding is the simple, cheapest thing
Yeah.
that all of us can do. Just so
Yeah.
you guys know, most of you guys are young. I see a couple of gray beards out there like me. When I was a little boy, everything was leather shoes. We need to go back to that. So I'm going to tell all of you, even if you have tennies, I'm working with, I haven't announced this to anybody yet, but I have a member who is a big-time designer. He works with all the crazy bastards in Hollywood. We're talking about coming out with shoes that you guys would have for sneakers, but you'll be able to ground with them and it'll still work. I'm talking about doing flip-flops like that. I was supposed to have a pair of orange flip-flops for this meeting. They didn't get done. But anyway, that is something that is the cheapest thing that all of you could do for your health. Because if you ground, what are you effectively doing? It's two things. There's a slide that we can't put here, but I'm sure I'm going to do another talk down the road. Grounding does two main things. It gets rid of deuterium in your body, which is important. You'll hear a lot more about this principle behind this in my last talk, where I probably will be very controversial. And then oxygen. Everybody believes on fiat medicine that when you see oxygen in biochemistry, it's just O is the same. Turns out in biophysics, that's not the case. The Russians taught us that a long time ago. Oxygen can be singlet or triplet state. And when your magnetic flux is good, you stay in the triplet state. Why is that important for you guys to hear? You probably remember Michael Jackson. He had vitiligo. That means that his oxygen in his body was mostly singlet state. He was never grounded. So if you can't get a tan and you go in it, like if you have someone in your family who's got MS and they go to the beach and all they do is get red and never get tan, that tells you they have singlet oxygen. That is a diagnostic criteria that I use when people come to see me. I want you in the triplet state. How do you get in the triplet state? Leather shoes, no shoes. Like you see my buddy out there, Paul, that's in the Noster tent, he was walking around with no shoes. You guys may think he's crazy. He's not crazy. He lives in Costa Rica. He's been to my house. He's jumped off my roof into my pool. That increases your magnetic flux. That will give you a tan. So you guys who live here in Czech, you don't get a lot of sun. I mean, look, we're 2 weeks away from the summer solstice. Everybody should have a tan. Nobody has a tan here. The reason why, I know the weather's been bad, but how can you guys be ready for it when the sun comes? Like you two in London. Take your shoes off and walk on the grass. Let me tell you how important this is. I'm building a resort for my mitochondriacs in El Salvador right now, my nurse, and technically it's really hers. I bought it for her. We went to a special place in El Salvador called Usulután that has the best dirt that a volcano can put out. It's graded 9 out of 10 globally. We put this dirt down and then grass that you can walk on because there's more magnetic flux. Plus, as you know, El Salvador is the land of volcanoes. The entire country is a volcano. Volcano has magnetic flux. So when you walk there, you're magnetically pinned. That's the reason why you're going to keep your tan. You'll notice when you get on the plane to go back to London, you know this especially, because she's been with me in my place, you lose your tan. Like I did a podcast with Rick Rubin, who's one of my clients, and Rick will always say, look, Jack, when I leave Costa Rica, I get on a plane, fly home to Malibu, I lose my tan. The reason I tell you guys this, I want you to understand, if you spend that Bitcoin and go to Hawaii and you're there for a week or two, if you want your tan to last, make sure you don't wear shoes when you come home. And I would also tell you that's a hack for jet lag. First thing I want you to do as soon as you get to the place you are, take your shoes off and walk in the grass if you can. If you cannot do that, last night, what I did when I got here, because I got here pretty late from El Salvador, I put a TENS unit on my foot, this foot. Why? To simulate what I was doing. What's another hack you guys can do when you're in an airplane? You know, when you sit in an airplane, if you're not in first class, they have a metal stanchion. Remember, a plane has to be grounded for the avionics. So a metal stanchion there, if you take your shoe off, put your foot directly on the metal stanchion, you're effectively grounded the whole trip, no matter what. So that's something easy you guys could do when you do that. But I really want to see more Bitcoiners, no shoes or leather shoes. If you guys start doing what I do, when I buy new shoes, when I bought these shoes in Nashville, when I was there 12, 13 years ago, they had rubber soles. I take it straight to the cobbler, take it off. I don't care how much it costs, because this is something that buys you time back. And I always tell you, you spend your money for things that put time back in your bank account.
Brilliant. Literally, you can go and find a little park, a little bit of green grass, anywhere in here. I was doing it yesterday. People might look at you a little bit funny at start, And I'm there, bare feet, and I'm just there. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's great.
And I would tell you, depending on where you guys live, because a lot of you are European, look for things that are granite, like things that have been around a long time. Like if you can find Stonehenge rocks in your ground, stand on those. If you have good grass, stand on those. If you don't have anything good, like say you live in a city, hire an architect to make you a 6 by 6 meter place and make your own. That would work as well. But this is such a cheap thing for you to do. But it's so counterintuitive. Why? Because the fiat ideas of us wearing shoes, and we're not civilized if we don't have our shoes on. I know there's a lot of people in the audience, like, dude, I don't want to see some funky guy's toes, you know. But remember, we only say that to people who own Ethereum, okay? If you're a Bitcoiner, we want the Bitcoin guys to be around. Because there's people that we need to fucking put in jail. It's as simple as that.
Okay, perfect. Next quick one, because I know Daniel is ready with his nuclear question. Next one, quick one, is non-native EMF. So that would be when you're charging your phones, all this stuff.
All right. So this is probably, there's a lot, I could go on a tirade here. This is the number one thing. I know all of you guys like tech more than I do. Just do me a favor. When you charge your phone, charge your computer, do not fucking put it on your lap, okay? Make sure there's a good space between you and that. That's a really bad idea. Now, here's the best hack. Again, I want you guys to go out and buy batteries that you can charge this stuff. When you have a DC charge going between the battery pack and your computer or your phone, you don't have to worry about non-native EMF. When it's plugged into the wall is when you have to worry, okay? So go buy yourself a nice battery charger and use that. I know all the people in KLM tell you, you can't put this in your bag. Fuck them.
There you go. Next quick one is DHA.
Yeah, seafood. Seafood, this is a good one to tie with EMF. And the reason why, the bigger tech abuser you are, the more seafood you need to eat. I'm not going to tell you why. If we do a Q&A later, I will. But basically, DHA has a lot of electrons on it, okay? The problem with non-native EMF, it puts too much deuterium in your body and takes the electrons away. So what you need to do is reverse it. And DHA is one of the ways we reverse it. The other thing I will say about DHA, it's also one of 2 magnetic fats in the body. Why? You need that in the brain. Remember my day job, guys. I'm a brain surgeon, so I know a little bit about this. DHA and cholesterol are good for you, okay? The fiat guys tell you exactly the opposite, okay? If you came to me and told me, Jack, my cholesterol level is 320, I'd shake your hand and say, you're a smart guy. Now just get your rubber sole shoes off and get some leather.
Brilliant. Because when we're grounding, basically, we're, again, getting electrons from the ground.
Yeah, but you should, did you guys hear what she just said? She just gave you a very important zinger. When you ground, you get free electrons from the ground. This assumes you have DHA in your nerves.
Right.
But how do we do that? What makes us different than our cousins, the apes and the gorillas? We're the only primate that has eccrine sweat glands on our feet, which is why you guys wear socks. But you don't realize the monkeys don't need it because they climb on the trees. They're always grounded. They're grounded to the trees. But we have an ability to move across the tectonic plates. That's the reason why I want you with your bare feet, because you make a bigger connection. That also brings up the point, when you ground in the beach, what I want you to do is just put your feet right on the wet sand or the water, because you make a bigger connection when you do that.
Perfect. Final one, cold exposure.
Cold is huge. This is the best part about being in the place of Europe that we're in. Why? People in Scandinavia, people in Czech, people from Russia, the Slavs, they get cold. And what cold does, a lot of things. Cold increases magnetism through a Curie temperature. I talked in my last talk about using rare earth elements that we can use to hack when we travel. That actually does it the warm way, okay? There's 2 ways to do it. But cold thermogenesis, this is a protocol that many of you may not know I wrote, in 2005, before anybody else was talking about it, including Wim Hof. And this protocol is designed to squeeze you. When you go in the water, you get squeezed, and it squeezes the deuterium out of you. That's the main effect of cold. Now, how long do you need to stay in the water? My biggest hack that my daughter is sitting in the front row here, she'll tell you I fell asleep in cold water for 14 hours with 140 pounds of ice on me. And her mother was mad at me because she thought I was going to drown. But I didn't. The sicker you are, the more CT you need to do. If you don't have any sickness, you're fine. But if you're a tech abuser, then I would tell you use a little bit more CT. CT also is pretty cheap to do here in Europe because you guys, it never gets hot here. And if you put some water and some cold, you're good to go. How would I tell you to do the cold though? Go to the farm supply, buy a metal tub, take a copper wire, run it on the metal tub into the ground, fill it with water, jump in. Even if you can only do a little bit, that's fine. And you can go back and do it multiple times. If the sun is out dry in the sun, go back in again. So just rinse and repeat.
Would even having a cold shower help at all?
It does, but the thing with cold that's that I think humans need to understand, that I thought you were going to ask me about like cryotherapy with nitrogen, because a lot of Bitcoiners do that. I'm going to tell you that's a true waste of money. But cold showers, I think, are okay. But let me tell you what the reason why being submerged is better. Your body works 24 times to heat dissipation when you're submerged in cold water. So like you guys live in London, so if you go by Clacton on the Sea and you go in the sea, this is perfect. I know Czech doesn't have really sea around, but if you do go to a place like that and you have the ocean, like people in California, I tell them all the time, Pacific Ocean in California is really cold. It's like 50 Fahrenheit, which is, I don't know, like 3, 4C, 5C, I don't know.
Something like that.
But it's cold. You can go in there. In El Salvador at 13 North, Pacific Ocean, it's
a lot warmer.
90 degrees. It's not really beneficial. And I will tell you, I don't do as much CT in El Salvador as I used to, but my pool at my house is built a certain way, where it's pretty cold. And then I'm getting ready to build a new hotel down there, and I'm going to also put a cold plunge in. So if you guys ever come and visit, you'll be able to go and do that. But I don't want you to be afraid of it. I don't want, if your wife is pregnant, it's safe for pregnancy. Is it safe for kids? It's safe for kids. The only people that usually have to worry about cold, if you have a pre-existing heart condition, you probably need to be careful with that. But if you pre-do some of the stuff I'm talking about, like eat a lot of seafood, after 2 or 3 weeks, you'll be able to do cold thermogenesis, no problem.
Amazing. So on that note, we're going to hand you over to Daniel because he can't wait, and we want to hear. This is going to be very interesting. Thank you so much for this part.
I've got a couple of follow-ups, actually, Jack. Thinking about grounding, I have a theory I want to run past you about Victorian England, and my wife and kids are going to roll their eyes over here because I've shared this with them. And you see pictures of Victorian England, and everybody's dressed smart, and they'll be wearing the leather soles because we didn't have rubber soles back in those days. But what you also notice is everyone's got a walking cane, and I was thinking, damn, like, not everybody could have had a gammy knee. Like, that doesn't make any sense. When I looked at the materials, it's brass tip, wood, and brass handle. I believe they were grounding sticks.
I absolutely agree with you. And I'll tell you, this is a funny story. Also, we'll go keep it in England. The crazy Henry VIII. You may not know this, but he was injured with a jousting injury, and he also had bad osteomyelitis in his legs. So anytime women have sex with him, he smelled really bad. And one of the things that was interesting, he wasn't able to ground after that. He got all the diseases that our patients get today in there because what did he do as an elite? He was inside in the castle. What was the artificial light back in his day? It was fire at night. Which, believe it or not, actually affects your melatonin level 3 to 5%. But we now know that the elites, like to scale this up from Henry, let's go, how do we know that this was a big deal? We know from the Great Pyramid of Giza, the people that built it were the people of the Nubians who had dark skin. They were from Sudan. We found their skulls on the side of the Sphinx and the side of Giza. They were in perfect condition. Their bones were great. The same time, Akhenaten's son, King Tut, which I'm sure many of you know about, we have his mummy. We've x-rayed it. He had every single disease at 13, 14 years old that my patients have when they walk in the clinic. So what do we know between the people that built the pyramid that were grounded on the sand in the sun all day? They had perfect skulls, perfect dentition. What's the other big thing about England? Everybody has a class 2 malocclusion. What is that? That's when your upper jaw comes out, your lower jaw is back here. This is actually an effect of not grounding. It's also an effect of not having enough sun. And to remind you, London is around 50, 51 latitude. So this is a problem in this part of Europe. So you need to realize these things are an epidemic when they've gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's a good observation.
All right, cool. Thank you. You say I was right. The doctor says. Okay, a couple of years ago, Jack came on the Once Bitten podcast, and Lauren asked him the first question. And that first question was, why was your TED Talk banned? So if you've not heard that podcast, please go back and listen to it, because Jack talks about that, and he gets a visit from the feds, and a lot of other shit goes down. But towards the end, or the second third of that, we went on a pivot, we went on a tangent, and Jack was giving me some warnings of what was going to be coming into Europe and into the UK. Anybody here, please, by show of hands, do you know anyone, any friends, any families, any hearsay of anybody that is taking weight control drugs at the moment?
GLP-1s is what he's asking. Raise your hand so we can see.
Okay, right. Now, GLP-1 drugs, and I've got the definition here so we all know what it is. GLP-1 drugs, or glucagon-like peptide number 1 receptor agonists. Sorry, I need to take the glasses off because I've got the red light on this. I can't see a thing.
Double red.
Yeah. Are medications that help lower blood sugar levels and promote weight loss. They work by mimicking the GLP-1 hormone in the body, which regulates insulin release and appetite. Now, you might already be triggered by that definition. I can see in his eyes. But Jack, what I want you to know is what's being written. So I did a search just before we come up, GLP-1 drugs, UK, then I hit news, because I want to see what's happening in the news. What are we being gaslit with? So I'm just going to read some out for you. Bloomberg, weight loss drugs cut UK food bills by £780 million, studies show. And then we have a surge, this is the Independent, a surge in use of weight loss jabs hitting supermarket sales. The Telegraph, weight loss jabs could transform cancer prevention. The Sun, fat jabs could treat cancer. Drug cuts risk of developing deadliest types by up to 70%, major trials find. Now we have The Guardian. Whey protein shortage looms as use of weight loss drugs fuels global demand. And here's one that I really wanted to get to. Where has it gone? Basically, it was reduces the chance of breast cancer by 70%.
All of those things are true. You know why? Because it reduces your lifespan by 10 to 20 years. They're trying to subtract you. You're the carbon they're trying to reduce. And that's why the TED Talk was banned. See, most of you don't know, before I came into Bitcoin, I was way more fucking controversial in my own world. And that was when I was going after Rockefeller medicine. I've been after centralized medicine for 25 years. That's the reason why me stepping into Bitcoin was pretty simple. But if you know the story, and the story has now come out on other podcasts, I have to thank my nurse for this, putting the target on my back, because how did this start? About 4 years ago, my friend Rick Rubin wanted to have me on his podcast with a guy named Andrew Huberman, which I'm sure some of you guys know. And he said, Jack, I want you to teach Andrew about light, water, and magnetism. And I didn't answer Rick for 6 weeks. Then finally Chantal said, she goes, Jack, I think you need to do this. And I said to her, if I do this, I'm putting this target back on my back because I know where this is going to lead, because at this time the GLP-1 drugs in the States were just hitting it. And just so you guys know why you're involved in this, the number one profit maker in Europe is Novo Nordisk, which is a European drug company that is tied to Rockefeller Medicine, okay? So in podcasts that I've done this year, I've laid out the case why these people have come for me. And this story has now reached into Bitcoin because we have some OG Bitcoiners that are tied to part of this story through links through Fabian's from the UK. Okay? And that would be the Epstein files. For those of you who don't know, Jeffrey Epstein was hired in 1983 by the Rockefellers, made a CFR member, and his key job at that time, for those of you who are too young, the graybeards will remember, that's when the Human Genome Project started, okay? And Epstein was tracked with going to 3 or 4 different people for the Rockefeller Foundation. And he did that. He went to George Church, Eric Lander, and a guy named Boris Nikolaev. And why is this important? What was Epstein's target? Chromosome number 2. Daniel, do you know where the glucagon gene sits?
No.
Chromosome number 2. Guess what else sits on chromosome number 2? The melanin gene that you make from light. Isn't that interesting? Right? And then the third part happens to do with a little element on chromosome 2 that's tied to how your red blood cells work and how we regenerate. How would you guys know about this? You probably heard about this little chemical called adrenochrome. And adrenochrome is tied to this story. So when the Rothschilds paid Epstein $25 million per year, Rockefeller wanted to know about chromosome 2. That's effectively where the GLP-1 drugs came. In 1994, leptin was found at Rockefeller University by Jeffrey Friedman. I didn't learn about leptin when I was in medical school. Why? Because I graduated before. I never learned about it. So when I did the deep dive and I gave the talk at TED, the talk was about the leptin melanocortin pathway and cold. So who was at that event? DARPA, the FBI, the CIA, and the state board where I was practicing. And the talk was extremely popular. I had all these people in my office. You may not know this. I was on a cruise ship, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months after this. Someone started a fake Twitter account and said that I had a biological weapon on the boat, and the FBI escorted me off the boat. So the story is, they knew that I knew the story about Epstein and Rockefeller linked through the GLP-1 drugs. And they were afraid that I was going to drop that grenade. Why? This is the thing that you guys probably don't remember. The first GLP-1 drug that ever was created in 1995. It was called VIII, and it was terrible. Didn't do shit. But when did you guys start hearing about it? You started hearing about it with Ozempic. That came much later, okay? Why? Because they kept working on it. What effectively was going on at the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico with the adrenochrome? Through this process, the elites found out that you could use adrenochrome is a precursor for melanin. Melanin is what you make when you go in the sun and get tan. So what did these elites find out? Well, we don't need to go in the sun. We just need to put kids in the sun, terrorize them, get their adrenochrome, and we can get the benefits of light, water, and magnetism before you really need to use it. Now, it turns out that was the biologic part of the story. Turns out there's another part of the story, too, where Fabians were tied up with the Epstein files that I think every Bitcoiner knows about. And I'm not going to be talking about that right now, but my last talk I am going to talk about that because now Bitcoin has the same problem. And for you Europeans, you may not know, Uncle Jack's a little saucy. I can be a little messy. So 3 years ago, I did a Danny Jones podcast. And on the Danny Jones podcast, my day job as a neurosurgeon, when we make mistakes, they put us in the front of a room just like this, and the audience peppers us. It seems from the outside that it can be kind of brutal, but if you understand the process is so that I learn and I never make the mistake again. That's what a Morbidity and Mortality Conference is called. Most patients never know that their doctors go through this as part of their training. Why? Because if you did, you probably would be stunned. All your lawyers would probably want to be there to hear it because we get it. I'm going to tell you about the last time I ever stepped in front of an M&M conference, my last talk here. But M&M conference is very interesting. Why? Because I believe you need to put sunshine on the truth of a story. And it turns out that the banned TED Talk was tied to the centralized GLP-1 story. And it's not a pretty story. It's a really gnarly, dastardly story. And I think most of you know where it led. I think in 2026, the Bitcoiners just found out that you got a bunch of shit that you got to worry about now. But you don't know really what the tie is. We're going to talk about that tie and where it goes. And I think some of you are going to have to rethink your truth on some of the people that you think are your heroes now. Why? Because I don't think you're hearing the full truth. And my job when we do the first Bitcoin M&M in Prague is to teach you how this really works, because as effectively, all the plebs out there that are running nodes, you're the immune system for the guys in the treasury companies. You're the immune system for core Bitcoin developers that have gone rogue. And you need to know exactly why they're putting you at risk. And I promise you, everybody who knows me, I'm not a really technical guy when it comes to Bitcoin, but it will be the most technical takedown you've ever seen. And it's going to be based on mathematics that several people who I'm going to be targeting knows. And they're hiding behind. But how do we know they know about it? It's very simple. Their actions and who they're linked to and what they've been doing. But ultimately, it's not important what I think. You know what it's important? What you think. You are the immune system. And what is the M&M conference for? Is I want you to know, I got your back. I've told Daniel this, I've told Ralphie this. If you are a Bitcoiner, I look at you as family. But you have to remember, when we sit down in the United States at Thanksgiving, sometimes Uncle Joe needs to be slapped in the face because he's an asshole. Okay? Aunt Mabel, her pie sucks, you need to tell her. Okay? You have to be honest with people. So we always throw this phrase around in Bitcoin, trust but verify. Well, I got news for you. We need to have that discussion, and it needs to be public. You know what the problem is? There's a lot of pleb slop. In fact, one of those people used that term. Well, this is the best place to have a Bitcoin M&M conference, to talk about the things that no one wants to talk about. And then the tribe decides. Because you have an opportunity coming up in August to participate or not, to see if we can curb some of the things that they're trying to do. And this is very slick stuff they're trying to do, I promise you. And they're using mathematics to do it. Okay? When it comes to GLP-1 drugs, you need to be very careful about what you do. The mechanisms that's behind these drugs, and for those of you here, because I don't know how many Americans are here, we now have 4,300 lawsuits about the Ozempic and Mounjaro drugs. When the next drug that gets put out, which is Retta, and It's not FDA approved yet, but this is the one they're trying to sell to you right now, that it blocks 3 different agonists. I'm just going to tell you, this is the one that you probably need to be the most concerned about. So if your friends and family are on it, just understand, I'm okay, and I want to be very clear about this as a Bitcoiner. I'm okay if you want to take this drug after you know the risks. Just like I'm perfectly okay, I guarantee there's a lot of people in this room that were fucking idiots and rolled their sleeves up to take the jab too. But I support your decision to do that as long as you had informed consent. Here's my issue. There was no informed consent with any of these drugs. Just like I don't think there was any informed consent about what's happening on the Bitcoin main chain through Bitcoin Core. So I think we all deserve to have that discussion so that you can decide. Like if that lady over there in the beautiful red shirt says, no, I want to run, Core and I don't want to run knots, I'm okay with that as long as she has spent a little time and done her due diligence. But I will tell you, if there's some of you in the room go, that's a bunch of bullshit, I'm not interested in it, I got news for you. You're our problem. You're the people that we need to go after. And the key is all of us, I don't have to sell anybody in this room about how great Bitcoin is. All of us know that. And we know it in our own different ways. But I will tell you this, and I'm not being hyperbolic here when I tell you, if we don't do something about this, this problem will extinct Bitcoin. It will ossify the main chain. And there's one thing I can tell you about Bitcoin and nature and magnetic fields. They need to move in order to have the effect. And Bitcoin Core needs to move. We need to get rid of a lot of them because some of the same people that were tied to the Zora Ranch are tied to those people, and they need to go because the same effect that's happening in my world in centralized medicine with the GLP-1 drugs, you guys have no idea every day the destruction that we're seeing from these drugs, okay? They're significant. There's a study out from the Blau lab. This is the same place where Andrew Huberman is a PhD, where it destroys their muscles. Let me explain something to you that I think all of you know. When we send an astronaut to space, within 3 days they get tinnitus in their ears. Within 3 days they start to see spots in their eyes. Within 7 days they get muscle loss. If they stay up a month, they lose 20% of their muscle mass. Guess what the Blau lab just told everybody? If you use a GLP-1 drug, that happens to you. And here's the worst part. It destroys your stem cells. So guess what? When you get off the drug, you can't recover from it. And it turns out the next generation of the drugs that are not FDA approved yet, which is Retta, which everybody can buy from their latest bro science guy. I mean, we got bro science Bitcoin podcasters taking pictures of themselves everywhere, right? Using fiat medicine, but on Bitcoin. That's like fucking yourself in your own ass. It makes no sense at all, okay? So if you're going to be fully decentralized, be fully decentralized. But you guys need to know that. And if you decide that you want to do that, I'm perfectly fine with it. But I don't want any of you to say, well, nobody told me. Nobody told me that. Because I can tell you this, the doctors in Europe, they're being paid to put you on this drug. Novo Nordisk is printing more money than my government in the United States with GLP-1 drugs. It is the most dangerous class of drugs I've ever seen. Why? Because it turns you into an astronaut on the planet. All the same complications that astronauts get, it's called nanion, flattened optic nerves, bleeding in the brain, screwing with your retina, extreme muscle loss. Anybody take a look at the Osbournes lately?
Yeah. They
look like walking Skeletors.
They do. And Sharon even said,
right.
She doesn't know the background, neither is she interested, but she said she stopped it and it's not stopping.
Correct. It doesn't
And
stop.
it just continues going. Exactly what you said, just losing the mass
Well,
and everything.
but you're losing your stem cells. But
Yeah.
what of the ladies in the audience need to know? It ruins your face, ruins the facial structure. So now in the thing in the United States, I don't know if it's got to Europe yet, because I don't think you guys are as fat as we are in the United States. The reason why we're fat, which we should also talk about, goes back to the water. Europeans have always been like high and mighty about your food. Let me tell you what the big story between the United States food and European food is. In 1940, Rockefeller decided, how can I sell more drugs to the United States? So they came up with this drug that I think all of you heard, glyphosate. You guys have done a way better job than we have. We glyphosated the entire breadbasket of the United States. That put deuterium in our food. So our food is different than your food. But you know what the problem is? Who controls, who teaches the doctors? The Rockefeller medicine through the Flexion Report, 1911. Who paid for that? European guy. Who was that? Carnegie. And then who picked up the charge? Rockefeller. And what did they do? They changed every school in the United States. Then they put it in your schools in the Western world. Everybody in this room likely is there. So all your doctors believe the biochemistry story that I told you. So they're impotent. Your doctors are impotent to understand that deuterium is what actually makes us fat. It's not fucking exercise. It's not your diet. It's when you put deuterium in food, it makes you fat. And you want to hear the crazy story? Most of you know the baby comes out of the vagina, the back of the neck here, you learn about brown fat. Brown fat is how you do cold thermogenesis. And remember, when the baby comes out of your vagina, I'm looking at all you ladies here, it's a big goo of fat, right? It can't do anything. The baby uses that fat to make the brain. That's what happens for postnatal development. But what else did we find out about deuterium just in the last 5 years? When you put deuterium in white fat, you know what it does? It expands the white fat mass. Guess what else it does? When you put deuterium in white fat, it makes you fatter. And guess what? I went to medical school in the United States. I never learned that. Never. I talked to all my doctor friends. I said, when I shared the paper with them on Twitter, and if you follow me on Twitter, you know I'm kind of a pain in the ass to people. I said, tell me, read this. What does it say? And then guess what? Then the fiat doctors on the other side, I just want to put them on a GLP-1 drug. So when you get put on a
Jack, I'm going to have to stop you because I'm getting the signs over here because the
sorry.
Now, we were supposed to do a Q&A, but Jack, you said before if anybody has any questions, you'd be happy to answer some outside if that's okay for you to have.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Jack Kruse. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Sorry, went over. Shouldn't ask me about GLP-1s.
I knew that would trigger him.
Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our wonderful speakers, Jack Kruse.